It started with silence. Not the kind that settles gently, but the kind that suffocates. The kind that floods a palace hall with dread. You could hear the echoes of Kate's heels pacing the corridor, slower than usual, almost hesitant, like she knew something wasn't right. William stood by the window, arms folded, staring out into a storm that hadn't yet arrived. The text message had just come through. Short, cold, final. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. He's doing it. That's all it said. No signature, no explanation. But they both knew who it was from and what it meant. King Charles had made a decision. Not just any royal decree. This one would erase a chapter from the family's recent and most controversial history. It would revoke, dismantle, and erase everything that once symbolized Meghan Markle's place in the British monarchy. Meghan would never be royal again. But how did it come to this? How did the smiling American actress who once held the world's attention in a custom Givenchy gown, standing beside a love-struck Prince Harry under the stained glass at St. George's Chapel, become the woman at the center of a royal erasure? What happened behind those closed doors? And more importantly, why now? Is this redemption for the House of Windsor? Or revenge? Before we go further, ask yourself, what makes someone truly royal? Is it blood? Ceremony? Public perception? Or is it loyalty? Something far harder to earn and far easier to break. Because make no mistake, this isn't just about stripping titles. This is about severing ties. Publicly. Permanently. And if whispers from within the palace are true, it's about exposing what the monarchy has known for years but never dared to say out loud. Something about Meghan's past. Something about her plan. Something that, according to a royal aide, was described as an act of calculated disloyalty. But let's rewind. Because the signs were always there. Subtle at first. Awkward family interactions. Glances that lingered too long in silence. Smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. Then came the Oprah interview. The Netflix series. The memoir. Each step widening the gap between Meghan and the family she married into. Each move seen by some as empowerment and by others as betrayal. And through it all, King Charles remained largely quiet. Regal. Above the noise. That is, until now. Because what if I told you that for the past 6 months, the monarch has been laying the groundwork for a secret plan, a plan to officially and irrevocably remove Meghan Markle from the royal equation. Not just from duties, but from history, from documents, from titles, from protections. And that this plan came with consequences so severe, even Prince Harry was said to have begged his father to stop it. But it was too late. You see, the moment came like thunder, loud, unannounced, and impossible to ignore. A late-night emergency meeting was called at Balmoral. Not everyone was present. Not everyone had to be. Only those closest to the decision. Those who would understand the gravity of what was about to happen. And those who could be trusted not to leak it. Until it was already done. Kate wasn't in the room, but she felt the tremors the moment William stepped out. His face was pale. His hands clenched. And when she asked him what happened, all he said was, "You're not going to believe what my father just said." And that was the beginning of the end. A palace insider later described it like this. The monarchy had tolerated a lot. But this was different. This wasn't just drama. This was danger. And the king had to act. But what did Meghan do that pushed King Charles over the edge? Was it a new scandal? A private betrayal? Or something far more calculated? Something brewing for years? We'll get there. And you'll hear it all. The moment Charles made the call. The hidden letter he sent Meghan. The emotional breakdown inside the Montecito estate. The reactions of William and Kate. The ripple effect through royal circles. And what this means not just for Meghan, but for her children. Because here's a question no one is brave enough to ask. If Meghan loses her royal titles, do her children lose theirs too? And what does that mean for their future? Their safety? Their inheritance? This isn't just royal gossip. This is a constitutional shift. And we're about to walk you through every emotional turn of it. But before we plunge into the heart of this royal firestorm, we need to understand how this all began. Not just the surface story, but the real story. The slow unraveling of trust. The carefully staged silences. The behind-the-scenes maneuvering that led to this explosive moment. And more importantly, the truth about what Meghan Markle allegedly planned for her next chapter, the one she thought the royal family would never discover. Spoiler alert, they did. And now, they're fighting back. But here's what you didn't hear on the news. This wasn't a simple removal. This was surgical. It involved legal teams, special advisors, even an invocation of a little-known royal clause from 1937 that hadn't been used in nearly a century. And it was done deliberately quietly, until suddenly, it wasn't. Because when the palace released the official statement, the world stopped. In 147 words, Buckingham Palace confirmed what millions had suspected. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, would no longer hold or use royal titles in any formal or ceremonial capacity, effective immediately. But as with everything royal, the truth wasn't in what they said. It was in what they didn't. The statement left out one very important detail, the why. No explanation. No blame. Just silence. And that silence, that's where the real story begins. Because while the world speculated, the family knew. William knew. Kate knew. And Harry, well, Harry tried to change the outcome. But even he couldn't stop it. Because this time, the king had made up his mind. And if you think that was the end of it, think again. Because what came next would shock even the most cynical royal watchers. Hidden letters. Screamed threats. Secret recordings. Meghan's frantic call to her legal team. A move to protect her children's names. And perhaps most chillingly, the real reason King Charles acted now, instead of waiting. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. So buckle in. Because over the next hour, you're going to hear everything, chapter by chapter. The heartbreak, the betrayals, the secret allies and public enemies, and the final, irreversible decision that sent Meghan Markle into royal exile, this time for good. And just when you think it couldn't get more dramatic, what Meghan does next will leave the palace trembling. But we'll get there, because first, we need to talk about the night it all changed. The night King Charles dropped the royal equivalent of a nuclear bomb and changed the monarchy forever. It didn't come in the form of a royal press conference. There was no grand proclamation from the Buckingham Palace balcony, no televised address, no ceremonial gathering of the royal family draped in formality and stiff smiles. Instead, it arrived like a whisper in the dark. An email, sent at 3:47 a.m. London time, marked confidential, no fanfare, no signature flourish. Just a simple subject line that sent chills through the handful of insiders who received it. Her Royal Highness, status update. That was it. Within seconds, William's phone buzzed. Then Kate's. Then Princess Anne's, Camilla's private secretary, even Edward. Every one of them read it in silence. A few gasped. One reportedly dropped his phone. And just like that, it was done. Meghan Markle, once styled as Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex, was officially no longer a royal in any formal or legal sense. Her titles had not just been suspended or limited. They were gone, vanished, as if they'd never existed at all. But how did it come to this? And why in the dead of night? What made King Charles bypass every royal protocol and tradition to issue a declaration so shocking, so absolute, that even his closest family members stood in stunned silence? Let's go back. Because this wasn't a spontaneous act of rage. No, this was months, maybe years, in the making. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly. A series of private meetings between King Charles and his constitutional advisors. Discussions no one was supposed to know about. Yet whispers still leaked out. One royal aide reportedly overheard Charles saying, "There's only so much damage one name can bring to this family. We either protect the crown, or we watch it fall from the inside." That was weeks before the announcement. And here's where it gets even more chilling. The actual drafting of the document that revoked Meghan's titles? It was prepared in complete secrecy. 3 copies. Printed on thick, cream-colored paper. The kind reserved only for declarations of the highest authority. Not even Prince Harry saw it coming. But maybe he should have. Because the signs were everywhere. William, once open to reconciliation, had recently gone cold. Kate, always the peacemaker, had stopped replying to Meghan's messages. And Camilla, well, she'd never been subtle about her opinions. But the moment the email went out, all of that was nothing compared to what followed. Within minutes, media speculation exploded. First it was a tweet from a royal watcher. Breaking, Palace has moved against Meghan. Developing story. Then came the tabloid headlines. Exiled. Stripped. Never royal again. The world watched in real time as Meghan Markle's royal identity unraveled. But here's the thing, the public only saw the symptom, not the cause. What really pushed King Charles over the edge? What line did Meghan cross that made the king willing to risk public backlash, international scrutiny, and further division within his own family? Let's rewind to the night before the announcement. Sources close to the palace say Charles had received a dossier, a collection of transcripts, messages, and what one insider called explosive private material. Material that allegedly implicated Meghan in a plan to release another documentary. One that would go beyond Harry's memoir, beyond the Netflix series. This one, reportedly, would feature never-before-seen home footage, private text exchanges with royal aides, and possibly even secret audio recordings from her time inside the palace. But what shocked Charles most? The rumored title of the project, Surviving the Crown. If true, it would have painted the royal family not just as toxic, but as dangerous. Charles reportedly said to his team, "She's not just rewriting the narrative. She's trying to burn down the entire monarchy." And from that moment on, the king didn't hesitate. The plan to revoke Meghan's titles was accelerated. Lawyers were brought in. Language was fine-tuned. And then, at exactly 3:47 a.m., it was unleashed. A senior palace source later told a journalist off the record he'd had enough. For Charles, this wasn't just about titles anymore. It was about trust. Meghan had shattered it. But if Charles thought the move would end the drama, he was wrong. Because Meghan? She didn't take it quietly. According to someone close to the Sussex camp, Meghan's reaction was instantaneous and volcanic. She went white, the source said, then red. Then she started pacing. When Harry read the email, he reportedly froze, stared at the screen, then turned and whispered, he actually did it. The tension in their Montecito mansion reached boiling point. Staff were dismissed for the day. Security was tightened. Meghan allegedly called her lawyer within 10 minutes. The conversation, according to leaks, began with 6 unforgettable words. Tell them this isn't over yet. But it was. At least for now. Because back in London, another meeting had begun. This time, between William and Kate. Kate, who had tried for years to maintain a relationship with Meghan, was quiet. But William? William was furious. Not at his father, but at how long it had taken. This should have been done the moment she sold us out to Oprah, he reportedly said. To which Kate replied, she sold out more than just us. She sold out the Queen. That line hit hard. Because let's not forget, the late Queen Elizabeth had gone out of her way to protect Meghan, welcomed her, defended her. And this felt like betrayal. Deep, personal, final. But the royal family isn't like other families. They don't scream and slam doors. They don't storm out of rooms or post angry rants on social media. No, when they decide to destroy someone, they do it with silence, with erasure, with carefully worded statements and centuries of cold-blooded precision. And that's exactly what King Charles did. He erased Meghan Markle from the royal map. But here's the catch. This wasn't just about Meghan. The revocation of her titles triggered a cascade of consequences. Legal questions, diplomatic complications, even security protocol reviews. Because Meghan wasn't just being cut off socially. She was being cut off institutionally. What happens now to the Duchess's charitable patronages? Her protection detail? Her access to royal properties during state visits? Her children's titles? The answer, no one knows. Not yet. And that uncertainty? It's more dangerous than any official statement. Because uncertainty breeds chaos. And Meghan? She thrives in chaos. Already, reports suggest she's preparing a response. Not a statement. Not a tweet. A move. Something bigger. Something aimed not at Charles, but at the public. Because in Meghan's world, public opinion is the crown she really wants to wear. But what will that move be? Will she finally name names? Release documents? Sit down with a camera and tell her version, unedited, unfiltered, and unstoppable? And more importantly, is Harry still standing by her side? Because here's the part no one's talking about. In the hours after the announcement, Harry made a call. Not to Meghan, not to his lawyer, to Charles. It was short, strained, painful. Is there anything I can say to change your mind? Harry asked. Charles's response, no. And the more you try, the worse it'll get. That line landed like a hammer. And it raises a terrifying question. What else is the palace prepared to do? What cards are still hidden? Because this explosive decision to erase Meghan's titles might not be the end. It might just be the beginning. The beginning of a war that's been brewing behind palace walls since the day Meghan stepped into the royal spotlight. And now, the gloves are off. But what comes next will shake the royal foundation to its core. Because while the king delivered the first blow, it's Meghan's next move that could blow the entire institution wide open. And that next move? It started with a single phone call to a name no one expected.